Now, I may start this conversation, Megs. I know we're close to break. Might take a break during and come back. Okay, let's go to line number 5 and say hello to the Liberal MHA, serving the folks of Burgeo, Lapoil, Andrew Parsons. Hello, Andrew. You're on the air.
Good afternoon, Paddy.
Good afternoon to you, my friend. How are you?
Well, I'm doing better than a lot of people that got notice on Friday that their jobs are being cut.
Other than the Friday thing, which if you heard the preamble, I think it's governments and all political parties, we're not falling for it anymore, the Friday, and it was released. I think it's stupid. We got to move on from that ploy.
Well, it's one of those things where it may have worked perhaps back when media was a bit more traditional.
That's right.
With everything being online and so fast, it's not working. But that's not the biggest reason these people are upset. It's obviously the fact that right now the word I've got is that somewhere in the range of 200 to 250 people have had their jobs cut with 3 months' notice.
Now, I'll ask this just to get your reaction, not implying that I feel one way or the other. Why shouldn't their jobs be cut?
Why shouldn't their jobs be cut?
Right.
Okay, well, I'll put in a couple reasons, I guess, and I appreciate that we might have to go to commercial, but I might need a little bit of time.
I understand.
These groups, these third parties that are providing services on behalf of government are there all over the province, rural and urban, to provide people with employment assistance services. We're helping people, many of them marginalized, so that they can get back in the workforce. So again, the service that they provide to people on the ground is one reason they should not be cut. The second reason is that the government's not saying that the service is not important. They're saying the service is going to be done by someone else. So that to me implies right there that, the service is obviously important. They're not saying we don't need the service. They know that it's needed. The second part, though, is that this is something that was handled by the federal government for years, but part of the devolution where the province took it over from the feds. The fact is that we're doing this with federal money. We're using federal money that was earmarked for these purposes, so the least we can do is make sure that it's used for the people that require it. And again, I can get into the on-the-ground stories of people that use these services and actually given a hand. Many of them, depending on where they are, they don't have the ability. They get help with the skills they need to go out and get jobs, help with resumes or computer skills, and actually getting an opportunity to go out and look for these jobs.
I mean, I've investigated a little bit about the services they provide. I've been looking for others to openly on air talk about the specific stories of how they were helped, but I can't help but think that there are other ways to provide the same level of service without having as many people employed in that particular field. Am I wrong?
Well, this is the thing. I've been thinking all along. I mean, we've all been preparing for the cuts that were coming. And I think these groups may have been prepared for that, too. The fact is that we've got this huge deficit, and I think everybody realized they might be on the chopping block. And I don't mind the term looking for efficiencies, because the fact is if you can do things a little bit better, then by all means you have to explore that. The problem I have is that this was an across-the-board cut. And the problem that leads to is they're going to put all this work, there's obviously a fair bit of work there, and they're going to put it onto pre-existing offices, which are already overburdened, and expect them to provide the same level of service to people. And I'll give you an example. I've got an office down in Ramia that they just cut that. And they said, and so they called in to find out, what they had to do to get the same service. And they said, well, you'll get on the boat now and take an hour-and-a-half ferry and then drive 2 hours, and you can go to Stephenmore, Cornerbrook to get this same service. Now, the fact is, most of these people are already unemployed. They probably don't have the funding to do that. The second part is, a lot of people, there's barriers to employment that we're trying to get past. And the government, by making this across-the-board chop everywhere, is not. It just blows my mind. It doesn't seem like there was any effort put in trying to rationalize it sensibly. It was a complete across-the-board cut of all these people.
Yeah, I think it's worth really looking at what service they provide. Can it be reflected through access to online? Does your area have the internet service required to do that? All of those things need to be part of the conversation, but there are a lot of ways, and it's an unfortunate reality of life, a lot of positions have been lost throughout public and private sectors where efficiencies and other opportunities to provide the same service have been found. And that's how it goes, right? I know we all know that, right?
I know that, but when you put it, just a couple things. These people, many of these places have been doing this work for decades. decades. We're talking about the John Howard Society, Vera Perley, and out here I've got the Gateway Women's Center. There's just so many, again, rural and urban. It's not just a rural thing, even though the fact is when you cut 5 jobs in a town, it is a big deal. But when you put out a release on Friday afternoon saying you're going to improve service, it's not only you're cutting their job, but it's a slap in the face to the work they've done, saying, well, we can do this much better without you. The second part...
But Andrew, maybe that's actually a fair reflection of what money's been spent and what results have been achieved. Sometimes that's also true, right?
Again, I tend not to agree with that. When you say that you're going to improve services by cutting 250 jobs and not creating any positions to handle this overflow work, I don't know how you can provide the same level of service.
Well, my God, we've had big companies who they have to rely on shareholder confidence and faith and a publicly traded stock to prove their mettle, and we have big corporations that cut them by the thousands, improve the bottom line, improve the value of the company. I mean, and services can continue. There's a realistic model to be followed here. The wording of a job cut note and or email or pink slip is really not that big a deal, is it?
It is to the people being cut, Daddy.
Yeah, but
it is to the people getting 3 months notice that their job that they've been doing for a number of years. It's a slap in the face is what I'm saying. It's not their biggest worry. Their biggest worry is trying to figure out what they do next. I mean, there's a lot of stuff to this. The fact that they're not telling these people how they're going to be able to, how they're going to access this service in the future. I don't know if they've really thought this through. When you tell somebody that they've got to get the same service by driving hundreds of kilometers and going on ferries, I don't think it's been completely thought through. And again, I think actually it was a few weeks ago on your show, somebody came on, one of the cabinet ministers, and criticized me about when I was speaking about government senior positions, and they said, well, a number of these positions were for females. Do you remember that? It was
yes, I do.
Your show.
Yeah.
I'm willing to wager that 90% of the jobs being cut here are filled by women.
Dangerous territory.
So, again, it's not being cut because of that, but I'm just saying the reality. And I've talked to a lot of these people today. I've been getting calls the weekend. I've been getting calls all morning. That is just the reality of what we're doing here. So these people are very upset, and I'm sure that they're going to get an opportunity to come on board, and that they do.
And I'll be willing to have that conversation for all the right reasons. But I think the women reference here, the gender reference, I think is extremely dangerous ground. Put it this way. If there was a bunch of nurses' jobs lost, we could easily say, my God, sure, the bulk of the people lost their jobs were women. What, we got a bunch of women haters? No, we just got a lot of women doing that job, right? I mean, so we have to be very careful with that one.
Oh, yes, I have no doubt, but you have to bring up gender and the fact that it's actually referenced in the press release itself. I mean, it's brought up there. So, again, I can only pass on what I'm hearing from people on the ground and what I see. It is what it is. But my bigger concern is that it's not about who's providing the work. It's the fact is that the people providing it are no longer there. The people getting these services, again, they are marginalized in society. And they're not going to be able to get this service. So I'll give you an example. They're saying you can go to Advanced Education and Skills Office and get this done. Now, just say you are lucky enough to live in a community where you already have that office. Port of Ask has one. They have 4 employees. So now these 4 have to handle not only their regular workload, now they have to handle all the other work by these other groups or organizations.
I wonder, does their workday offer time to do it? And if so, then do it.
Right. And the second part of that is that 2 of those...
Very quickly before I go, Andrew.
Yes, 2 of those people are retiring. With this hiring freeze, are you going to hire on people to pick up the slack here?
We'll see. Well, there you go. We'll see. There are fair questions to ask, because then we can keep their feet to the fire and monitor next steps, because that's also a key part of it. I hope you got all your points there, Andrew. You're always welcome to call, my friend. I'm going to the break.
All right, thank you.
All the best. Bye-bye.